everyone. Good morning, Matt.
Good morning,
Good morning,
Joyce.
afternoon, I don't know anymore. But welcome back. This is our second episode of Short and Stout podcast called Tea First.
Tea
Tea
first.
First. And last week, we talked about how we got here, what our vision for 2023. And since it's the first start of the episode, we lay out some ground basic information about what is tea. So today we like to talk back about what is not tea, because we had a conversation about what is tea. So now we can find out what is not tea. But tea first, what are you drinking today?
Tea first. So I am drinking yerba mate,
Yerba mate.
a sunrise chai yerba mate.
Yerba mate.
So sunrise chai is ginger, cinnamon, cardamom, clove, mango flavor, and I'm picking up some sweetness. I'm guessing some stevia in it. Yeah, that's why I had my phone out a second ago, because I was gonna check the ingredients.
Yeah.
So there's some stevia, natural sweetener. It has a nice mouthfeel for it, so it's really full bodied, not too spicy, but
Yeah. But it's a type of chai that there was actually a customer request to do the house blend, and I experiment with it. And the concept is not to build it like chai that is strong as black tea that would take milk. So it's more like almost like a spiced, fruity tea that you can drink, not tea.
You said
Oh,
tea.
I'm wrong.
You said
Sorry.
tea.
Oh, okay. I take that back. Okay, I'm not gonna say that word.
I guess
You
no. Today we're doing tisane
For your
first.
tisane first.
Hey, but you're probably drinking a tea.
I'm drinking tea.
What are you
Not
drinking?
Not matcha though.
Not matcha.
Not
It did look
matcha.
very watery. Like,
I
it
know.
looked
I know. I got my secret
it
of what I'm
looked
drinking.
Oh, I know what you're drinking. You started it yesterday, right?
What is it?
I made it for you yesterday.
What did you make me yesterday?
I made you a hot water with a splash of jasmine.
I love that though.
Is
See,
that-
I grew up with jasmine water, where in Thailand we have fresh jasmine blossom, and it's customary that when we have guests to our house, we need to serve water. Seriously.
You asked them?
No, we don't. If you come to my house, my mom would say, Joy, and usually you use kids to do that, right? Like you say, go get water, and then if you have 4 guests, you come up with a nice cup too with a sauce and everything, and you
Glass cup.
present. Yep, you present to all the guests, and many times in the household, they have like a big pot of pitcher of water ready to pour, and a lot of time they put like pandan leaves or jasmine into it. So that's how I grew up with, and I kind of like the flavor. So a little splash of jasmine, because I'm very sensitive to caffeine in a way. So at night, if it's just a little splash, I can't take the whole cup of jasmine tea anymore, but I can take a little splash with hot water. And, our jasmine tea is very potent. So a little splash is just enough for me. But today is not jasmine.
No, I want to still go back to the jasmine. I still want to talk about jasmine because
Okay.
I'm intrigued. So you've been making jasmine scented tisanes since you were a child. That was a part of Thai culture.
I guess so. I don't know. I don't know that it's just how I grew up with.
Right, because jasmine flowers just bloom all year round, right?
Yep.
And so it's just very easy to grab like 3 or 4 of them, and then you just float them in
Float 'em,
water,
yeah.
and then you just hand them out.
And it's pretty much jasmine. We have other flower too, like champa, rose, but I don't see it as much as jasmine, because jasmine grow in almost every household, and we just float a little 1 or 2 flowers in. That's why here we have at Short and Stout here we have a few jasmine. We have green tea base, we have white tea base, and they all have different characteristics. But green tea is typically stronger, body. So it's good. Like jasmine pearl is good. We have 3 grades here. But when we got into the jasmine silver needle, which is very almost like some people call silver needle like water-like, but it's not like water. Last week we talked about how higher grade Chinese tea that we experienced, it tastes like, people who like strong tea would say, oh, it's just watered out, but it's not. It's almost very smooth, that it has nice complexity within, but yet it's just so smooth that tastes like water.
Yeah.
So the jasmine silver needle I think that's remind me the most of the jasmine flower that I grew up with.
Agreed. Now I'll back one little bit because what we haven't tried, when you said that white tea is like water like, and that's my experience too. I haven't tried aged white tea. I hear there's a big thing when it comes to that
Mm-hmm.
and being very, very different. But our jasmine white tea silver needles is phenomenal. You get excited when flowers bloom at the tea shop at the tea lounge, and you'll take the jasmine flowers and float it in water, and
Mm-hmm.
then I've drank that before, and that the jasmine silver needles is just on par with that. It's just so light, but yet so floral, like fresh floral,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, so not nothing artificial about it. So
No,
yeah,
no,
okay.
no. It just paired very well to me.
Mm-hmm.
And but I grew jasmine plant here,
Yeah.
so every summer I got some flower that I'm happy
Mm-hmm.
enough to just float it in water.
Yep.
But until then, when the jasmine is not in bloom, I just splash a little bit of jasmine green into the hot water at night, and
How
that's
did you
enough.
start doing that?
Well, I have to be honest that I'm not good at keeping track of time when I brew tea because of
Right.
my busy lifestyle. So I guess that's why I like matcha too, because you whisk and you clean up and then you're done and it's in your cup and I can walk
Mm-hmm.
around with it. Even
Mm-hmm.
if when I forget, I can just come back and add hot water to it.
Yeah.
So this is the same concept where, if I steep tea, I'm gonna get questioned. I'm gonna start talking to people, and then lo and behold, it's 10 minutes in. So jasmine water, the way that I did it, because we always have jasmine with our bubble tea.
Mm-hmm.
So what
Yeah.
I would do is we always like always have that already brewed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I just add hot water into the cup and splash it. So
Mm-hmm.
that's how the
That's
jasmine
great.
water
Yeah.
became to be. But
Fantastic.
today
Oh, we got
I
another tea drinker in the room.
we do. Noah, what are you drinking
Wait,
today?
you never told us we were drinking.
Oh yeah, no, I got it. I got
I
it
know.
right. Yeah.
What? It's not jasmine water. I told you. It's
See, I'm not
not.
listening. Thank you, Noah. Thank you for listening. What
Yeah.
is it?
Gyukuro.
Kukuro.
Gyukuro.
Okay. All
I had a
right.
great story. Yes, I met a great customer.
Oh,
Should I
okay.
say?
Yes, of course.
Well, so gyokuro is a Japanese higher grade of green tea. Noah actually was trying to help me pick what tea to take, but I'm locking into. I could take matcha, but maybe later in the day because it's early enough, so I can have 2 cups of tea if I drink tea early.
Mm-hmm.
But so I was going through and Noah was like, "What about this?" And I think I'll do gyokuro. That's a higher grade of um Japanese tea,
I love it.
even above sencha. No, actually, Noah sent me to sencha. I'm like, no, I'm gonna try something better.
Yeah.
And actually, this is my second steeping, and I even saved the leaves.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You know why I saved the leaves?
The audience doesn't know why you save the leaves. So we actually save a lot of leaves for
Compost.
for composting, but this isn't for composting.
No.
You actually add. What's your favorite soy sauce to add to it?
I like the mushroom soy.
Mushroom
So
soy
when we were
sauce.
in Japan like 5 years ago, 6 years, 5 years, we're hoping to go back this year. They, we were tasting a lot of tea, and when we got to Gyukuro, there's a little bowl with like leaves, and they give us chopstick, and we were like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, eat it." I'm like, "Eat it," and so just munching it in, and then they were like, "Oh yeah, that's Gyukuro leaves," because it's like so tender. It's just a tip of the tea.
Right.
So it's like spinach, young spinach, and then they flavor it with soy. So that's how I learned to do it here. So I save my leaves today.
And the mushroom soy sauce
And the
goes
mushroom
well
soy
with it.
sauce go out.
And so what makes Kukuro special too, other than sencha and other Japanese green teas, is that it's shade grown, just like matcha. So that makes it a real deep infusion. It decreases the tannins, and it's just a lot sweeter and more umami, right?
Yeah.
Picking
It
that up.
tastes like a little seaweed in a cup. And yesterday I sold one to this, one customer that, when I saw somebody came into a tea shop and look for like grab a specialty tea in their hand, I usually ask, "Oh, are you like, are you in particular into this tea?" Because most of the time we have more like customer who look for blend and fusion blends. But so it's like, "Oh, you have Gyukuro." It's like, no, it's just that I never tried this before, So that's something that I'm glad to see when we have customer who is willing to experiment, and I can tell he's probably no Asian culture because like when I bow my head, he bow his head back to me. So that was nice.
Even though it's not really a part of your culture
No,
to bow your
well,
head,
no,
but
we do bow, we saute,
oh, well, the
we do
soy,
that.
yes,
Just
yes.
show the lower respect. That's big
Right,
in the
right,
Asian
right.
culture.
Mhm.
Tisane. All right, well, you talk about tisane already. So what is
Tisanes
tisane? Where that
first.
word come from?
All right. So tisane is French origin, and it just means herbal infusion.
Okay.
I'll say because herbal infusion, and that's the kind of like the focus on it. Where you hear in America herbal tea, but we learned today that it's kind of a misnomer. There's no such thing as herbal tea because tea means it's from the plant, and that's where confusion can come in. So if you drop the word tea and you just say herbal tisanes or tisanes we would then gather is any kind of root, flower, leaf, herb, even I got the root, got the bark, bark comes bark, any of that infused in hot water that doesn't have tea leaves in it is a tisane.
And
if it had tea leaves in it, then it would be like a tea blend.
And I would go back to, just in case somebody didn't listen to the podcast last week, when we talk about tea leaves, we talk about Camellia sinensis.
The actual plant.
The actual plant. Yep. So the actual plant in that, type of plant that called Camellia sinensis, called variety of sinensis or sinensis assamica.
Right.
So,
well, more specifically, white tea, green tea, black tea, Guer, oolong. Did I miss that one? Wow, that was a big one to miss. Are all from the same tea plant.
Yep.
And then there's just different varieties and different styles of production that produces those different types of teas. But we're talking about tisane.
Tisane today. So tisane is anything else that doesn't have like Camellia sinensis.
Right. So when I'm giving tea talks and I say, what is tea? A lot of people gave the wrong answers. And then once I start saying, well, what isn't tea? So many answers come out. So let's play a little game. You say a tisane and I'll say a tisane and see who can go further.
Oh, gosh.
I think you're going to win. I'm not good at this. Go ahead.
Me first? Lavender.
Of course. Jasmine.
Mulberry.
Mint.
Chamomile.
Spearmint.
Cinnamon.
Rose.
Ginger.
Turmeric.
Oh, now I'm stuck. Yerba mate. Peppermint.
Hibiscus.
Did we already repeat each other?
Did we say? I don't think we said hibiscus.
You said mint already? No.
Oh, I said peppermint.
Okay. All right.
So I said hibiscus.
You win.
Okay. Well, we missed a big one too, which nobody really answers.
Wow. So. We just talk about it seemed like our head is just about herb and spice that people can grow in their backyard or in a daily kitchen.
That's true.
Which we can talk about it later.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So the big categories when we're talking about tisane, one of the biggest ones is we were talking about herbs. All those herbs, the chamomiles, the dandelion roots, the lemon verbena, all those things, valerian root. And then you have rooibos. Rooibos is very, very large category. And I think we'll touch base with that in a second. And then there is fruit tisanes. And a big portion of the fruit tisanes is hibiscus based. And that's very, very tart and very unique. And then let's see, there's the yerba mate. And the yerba mate is the exception to a rule when it comes to tisanes. So tisanes are caffeine free, except for yerba mate and its close cousins.
So you're saying that tisane is anything that is not tea from camellia.
Yep.
Most of them, 99% of them, do not have caffeine.
Yep.
And the things that you can grow in your backyard, or like rooibos from South Africa, you got, but then there's also yerba mate that's kind of break the rules, which is that it has caffeine in the leaves.
Yes.
And that leaf is not camellia, is not from Camellia sinensis, is another group of plant that have caffeine within, and that's from the holly plant family. It's also a cousin with guayusa. We hear more about yerba mate in like the energy drink industry because they would do the energy drink can and say
Mm-hmm.
energy boost, and when you
Yep.
look at the ingredients in the bag, it's not Red Bull, right? It's not Red Bull, so it say yerba mate. So that's the key ingredient. I've noted as Yaupon start coming out, recently too. They are cousins within the plant species, but it's not widespread as yerba mate. I actually like it. It's a little lighter than guayusa.
Mm-hmm.
I also heard about Yaupon. I know there's an American company that sell Yaupon because Yaupon is, beside yerba mate and guayusa. This is all related. It's from the holly plant family, but it's grown more like in Florida area. You can find Yaupon in um, Southern America too. So, those three would have caffeine, right?
Right.
And are made into the energy drinks a lot.
Yeah, and it has a storied history too in
Mm-hmm.
South America and Argentina, where they drink yerba mate in a gourd, and then
Mm-hmm.
they use a metal straw with like a little wire basket on the bottom,
Mm-hmm.
called a bombilla, and then they put the yerba mate in the cup in the gourd, and just so they don't steep it out, it
Mm-hmm.
just kind of simmers for and just stays in the cup, and then you use the straw and then the whole gourd and straw gets passed around
Mm-hmm.
amongst the group. And then as that gets drunk down, they would then just add more hot water
Hot
to it.
water. Yeah.
So typically the steeping is a little lower in temperature, like 160 degrees, and then we steep for about 7 minutes, right? 5 to 7
Yeah,
minutes.
well, yes. Well, we try to mimic the traditional way because for the fact that if you drink through the straw, you don't want to make it too hot that you can't just
Mm-hmm.
like drink it right away. I just make connection right now because before I'm like, why they use like lower temperature of yerba mate, for the yerba mate. But I think it's because of like, the traditional way, like they would drink through that straw. So if you put hot water in, you have to wait a while for the temperature to come down. So it's more like typical that they would add more like a lower temperature of water, to into the cup. And then that way they can sip it throughout the day, or drink immediately
Mm-hmm.
through the straw. So there's definitely that's interesting in that part of the culture. We used to have I think an employee who went to South
Yep.
America long ago, and the way that they steep is just not through the bombilla. The way that she saw it is more like drink it. They have it in the pot in home,
Yep.
and they just like stew the leaves away and get the
Mm-hmm.
juice out.
Yeah.
So
And there's I'm not too sure. I'm assuming that would have been like oxidized leaves. So she brought some back, and the
mm-hmm.
leaves were like, kind of brittle, kind of darkened
Mm-hmm.
leaves. And so there's actually coming three different varieties of the
Mm-hmm.
way that the leaves are blended into a tisane. I almost said
Mm-hmm.
tea. Where you have a green yerba mate, so that's not oxidized, and it does have a much fresher, lighter taste.
It's like green tea, right? Yeah,
Yeah, without the
similar. Yeah.
vegetables.
Yep.
And then, and that's what's in the sunrise chai mate. And then there is a oxidized, which is I think the typical is an oxidized yerba mate, and then there's a roasted yerba mate, and
Mm-hmm.
that's in our carnival caramel.
Yeah, the roasted kind. So again, to create different flavor profile of
Yep.
this amazing leaves, so
Mm-hmm.
one that is just like steep in hot water, and then it tastes like green tea, light, in the body. And then of course, if you want to be a little bit more fun, you roast it up, and you get like that roasty aroma. I love
Mm-hmm.
roasty stuff though.
Yeah. Yep.
So, but when it's come to roasty rooibos, I don't like it as much. So, I
Right.
mean, do you want
Yeah.
to talk more about yerba mate or move on to rooibos?
Rooibos.
Rooibos now. So what is rooibos, Matt?
So rooibos in the local language of South Africa, it means red bush. So that creates some confusion because here in the United States, while you're perusing the tea aisle at the local grocery store, you might get your eye caught by that says red tea, naturally caffeine free. So what we learned about last week is that tea contains caffeine. Caffeine is in tea, so it can't be caffeine free.
Right.
Which means that red tea is not tea at all, because if you look at the ingredients, it's going to say rooibos.
Mm-hmm.
And rooibos, again, means red bush, so that's where and it's very red when oxidized.
Mm-hmm.
It has a, kind of like a woody flavor and a heavier body than like a green mate or
Mm-hmm.
not so bitter as a black tea, but I can see how it gets its appeal because of the fact that it's caffeine free and it kind of has some woody, roasty, nutty kind of flavor.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a more bigger fan when it gets blended with other flavors like vanilla chai
You
rooibos
like
is
with the spice.
phenomenal. We have an orange creamsicle that is really really popular. Choco mint is great. But I'm also a big fan of honeybush, which is also from South Africa, and that is a little bit more savory, a
Mm-hmm.
little bit more. I don't know how else to describe it. I would call it like brandy without the bite. It has like a full body and kind of like little tannins of wood, but not so woody like the
Hmm.
rooibos.
I have different experience with it though. I do not like rooibos, roasted like the dark rooibos straight, but I would drink dark honeybush straight. And I think that it lives up to its name, honeybush, honey, because I do pick out like that honey essence in the honeybush, and it's not as woody. So I think like when it's come to rooibos, I liked it in blends. I liked it like what you like in vanilla chai. I don't mind in chocolate mint, I don't mind. But when it's get paired with fruity, sometimes you have to be careful because like that woody doesn't jive well with like the floral aroma or fruity aroma.
Mhm.
So I would drink honey bush. I think honey bush pair well with that in better. And I don't pick up much of the woody flavor from the honey bush, but I do like green rooibos.
Mhm.
So there's, as yerba mate, with this green yerba mate, this roasted yerba mate. So here we have the green rooibos too. That I would take it with something fruity because we do have the blend that called Summer Sensation.
Mhm.
That is more like the summery fruit with the green rooibos.
Right, right. And that's not really red, right? The red
No,
comes
it's
through the
green.
oxidation
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's truly green or very like yellowy green,
Mm-hmm.
right?
And that's a good alternative for, if somebody like fruity green tea for the, evening, but can't, like me, who can't truly take caffeine so much, then rooibos is definitely a good option. And if you don't like the roasty, earthy, undertone of it, then green rooibos is also another option,
Hmm.
to have like, because when we talk about all this herbal, there's a lot of variety of things that you can have at nighttime because there's no caffeine except
Hmm.
yerba mate.
Except yerba mate.
Yes.
All right, and then the other big category is fruit tisanes.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the bases of fruit tisanes can be uh, apple.
Mm-hmm.
It is a big fill, but we have coconut, we got peach, we got apple cider, we have a New York apple spice with
Mm-hmm.
cinnamon and stevia. There's a whole variety of non-hibiscus fruit tisanes. Is
Mm-hmm.
there anything you
Mm-hmm.
want to say more about
Yes.
that?
So the fruit tisane, what I'm used to more is hibiscus, right? Because I grew up with in a tropical country where we have the fresh hibiscus, and you're not talking about American big like flower hibiscus. We're talking about
Sure.
Roselle hibiscus, and that's the bud of it, where it has like super like very sour.
It
What?
is an ugly looking plant, I have to admit. So when you think of when you think of hibiscus, you're right, like the Hawaiian flower,
Mm,
the gigantic ones.
no.
But when you see this plant, it looks almost like a Halloween style. Yeah, it's just
Like a
like these
steak.
vines. Yeah, like
Yeah.
I feel like it comes down rather than
Well,
comes up, right? And then there's just these little claws that are like this. So I think it's very interesting too that hibiscus was a part of your childhood.
mm-hmm.
I don't know if I can say this, but we attempted to smuggle hibiscus seeds into the country
Now see.
because we didn't know that hibiscus was here in America
Uh-huh.
because you didn't know the hibiscus name.
True, true. That, yes. Yes, because when I first came here 22 years ago, 23, I mean 23 year this year. Yeah, you attach to a lot of food that you grow up with and you carry food from home. you miss it so much. And yes, I do carry hibiscus back here. Not the fresh one, the dry one.
Okay, all right.
At least I would carry that hibiscus with me, and have it one a day, one flower a day, so I don't, waste it so much, and burn out my supply in a short period of time. But yeah, but once we are in the tea business, I'm like, you know, um, I started learning the word hibiscus, but what I saw is not the whole flower though.
No,
It was
no.
like a chop up. But as I steep it, I'm like, wait a minute, this is gajiap. This is what I've been trying to carry in a small portion, put it in my suitcase, and come here with. So I'm like, oh, I guess I can buy this in America, and it's called hibiscus. So that's how I learned the word hibiscus, and know that it's available.
Right. And probably, I think we were going to a lot of, we go to Asian markets often. We were then sorting through all their herbs that they have, and then, yeah, make the connection that it is something that's available here.
Yes.
And so what's the different taste between like a fresh hibiscus and, something that's dried that you get here?
So I would say everything dry and fresh tastes different.
Yeah.
Jasmine, dry jasmine, fresh jasmine, dry hibiscus, fresh hibiscus. And I grew up in a tropical country where I got fresh stuff that I can just like pick from the backyard and then throw it, cook with it or make drinks out of it. So I'm used to the fresh stuff. So yes, they are a big difference. I think that if it's floral, like jasmine or hibiscus itself, the aroma, the floral notes kind of disappear a little bit. You get left with more like a dry flower, potpourri type, that left in the cup. The sourness, the flavor is still there. So I'm talking about the aroma, usually go with, the air, transportation, dehydration process. So I would say it lose that, characteristic of the floral notes, the freshness, and then, but the sourness, the flavor of hibiscus, which is the characteristic of hibiscus, is a sourness, is still there within. And you still get like a floral note, but it's more like a dry flower, but it's definitely different.
Yeah, so it was when I drink hibiscus, and I love it. Hibiscus, not necessarily by itself, but maybe there's a lot of blends with hibiscus, like orange pineapple punch, and I even sometimes do hibiscus and ginger. Were you going to say something to that?
Well, you tried a fresh hibiscus in Thailand,
Yes.
though. We went to the market and
Yep.
we bought from that, vendor, and we came back and prepared it at home.
Yep.
I mean, do you think you agree with me?
That was many years ago, and yes, I would absolutely
Yeah.
agree that it does taste
And-
different, and I can't put my finger on exactly what it is, but I guess the point would be, freshness or lightness. It's not so bitter. It's
true.
more juicier, and that's where I was kind of going with this too. Is that hibiscus tastes like unsweetened cranberry juice.
True.
And it's when adding sugar to it, it just creates this whole body to it, and it comes across more like a juice than what you think of as a tea. And to tie that back to fresh hibiscus, I think it's almost more like a juice by itself. I guess it's just
Yeah.
more sweeter maybe by
Yeah.
itself
Yeah.
when it's fresh as opposed to when it's dried.
Yeah, no, definitely there's a big difference in that. So hibiscus definitely is used in the fruit tisane because of that characteristic of like, sourness, there's this fruitiness within. So a lot of time it's a good base. And when I talk about base, I talk about it as the main ingredient. So when they come to fruit blends. And then here in America, for the softer blend that have less sourness, because not a lot of people like the cranberry juice type, because if it's too sour, then you feel like you need to add sugar. So another thing that I've seen, the blenders would use is dry apple, because that have like a softer flavor, and that's what Noah have over there is like with more like apple base. So it's the dry apple pieces that use as a base, and then everything else come into it. There's peach pieces. There's maybe lemongrass got thrown in there. There's other ingredients, but the base itself, in my experience, when it's come to fruit infusion, is either hibiscus base with everything else, or the apple base.
Yeah. One thing that hibiscus doesn't go along well with is tea. There is, especially like a black tea, because the bitterness from the black tea and the sourness from the hibiscus, something that just doesn't meld together. You know, yerba mate and like roasted yerba mate and black tea with coffee beans is in our Java Junction. You know, that works well. I don't think we have any rooibos blends. Actually, we do. Hazelnut Lover had a black tea and rooibos blend together.
Yep.
And then, but hibiscus tends not to be a tea blend.
In the tea.
Yeah, with tea leaves.
I mean, we have some in our raspberry tart that is a little touch of hibiscus. I used to blend something that's called Arctic Lemon that have green tea, mint, hibiscus, and some lemon. I still have customer after 10 years coming back for it, but I let go of that blend. Maybe I should bring it back one day. But it's you have to be careful when playing with hibiscus in the tea because you don't want it to overpower the other, you know, like the other ingredients. It depends on how strong you want it to come out. Like when you think of fruit like strawberry, berries, peach, you know, it's flavorful, right? It has sweetness, it has full sourness. So hibiscus pair well with that, and that's why you can use it as a base. But if you use a 50-50 between green tea and hibiscus, it might clash because of that bitterness and the sourness that come together. But hey, our iced tea punch, I put a good amount of white green tea and hibiscus, orange pineapple, and that seemed fine.
No, that is good. You know, you're right. Green tea does pair pretty well with hibiscus in moderation. But you know, you're talking about our iced tea punch was a craft tea, so you know it's a strong hibiscus with a little bit of green, you know, good amount of green tea, and then your little sugar. I always get this mixed up. I think I'm gonna go with lemon, right?
Which one?
Orange pineapple punch.
Lime.
It's lime, yeah. And then a spritzer style. So that's the nice thing about hibiscus is that's, you know, it can really hold up to a lot of ingredients. Because it's strong, and even by itself, it's high in vitamin C. So I like it in the summer or both in the winter. Iced in the summer, warm in the winter because it is like a full strong cup and caffeine.
Yeah. And
high in vitamin C.
In the culture of South Africa, right? There's
Nope.
No.
Yeah, I know. Sorrel. So there's two. There's sorrel and Jamaica. And sorrel.
Jamaica.
Jamaica. Yeah, Jamaica, I think it's called. Sorrel is more popular. That's from Jamaica, and where they mix the ginger.
A little bit of alcohol.
You know, I was gonna get there. So it is with the ginger, the ginger and hibiscus, and then
some spice, like a spicy hibiscus,
a little more spicier hibiscus, and then
a little bit of rum,
and then
it's refreshing. We had a vendor friend that when we went out to the music festival, there's like that food vendor.
Food.
I love that. And then I tried that sorrel.
That goes into, I guess, the herbs. We're moving into herbs because talking about ginger, there's a big difference between fresh ginger and dried ginger too.
Definitely,
and they'll use, you know, fresh ginger for that.
Yeah. See, in a tropical country, you can grab something fresh and just chop it up and make drinks, or you know, you just boil everything on a stove. I mean, that's how I grew up in Thailand. We have blue pea flour, we have pandan leaves that we use. The key ingredients, mango sticky rice, and a lot of Thai dessert. That is another popular one. So you can go to a vendor that sell drink based on this herb in a jar. Very pretty too, because like you get pandan that's green, you get blue pea flower that's blue, you got a glass jar of red hibiscus. So it's very picturesque, and they you know, Thailand is hot, so it's very thirst quenching. You know, like you order one, they put it in a bag, not cup. Okay? No, nowadays it's still bag.
Is it still in the bag?
Yeah, because
it's traditional style.
The traditional style, you know, in Thailand you have a bag with a two handle, and then with a straw, and they put ice in there, and they just like scoop.
And the ice is like the real crunch shape, like not shaved, but really small.
Yeah. And the handle of the bag, because you use motor scooter traveling around, motorcycle.
Mosai. Like a what is it called? Like a moped here.
Yeah. So those are all that we talk about. Is all tisane, right? Basically, it is not tea at all, but different culture. Household would grow it in their backyard, and then and then just infuse it with water.
Yep.
And tea wort is used as that way of steeping.
Yep.
Which is fine, like we just like try to avoid the confusion by using the right word, but of course we're not gonna come as if somebody say fruit tea or herbal tea, we're not gonna be the tea snob and say, nope, you're wrong.
No, we don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, sorry, you're gonna have to go somewhere else.
Yeah. So talking about, I know you talk about tea and tisane, and one that have caffeine and get bitter, and then one that is like very no caffeine except yerba mate. The time steeping, maybe we can touch base on that quickly.
Sure. So when you're steeping tisanes, let's back up. When you're steeping tea, really the Western style, because there's a lot of different ways to steep tea, but in Western style, you're using 1 teaspoon per 8 ounces for 5 minutes for black tea, and then and that's boiling water, and that's really so it doesn't get too bitter. People throw in tea bags and leave it in forever just to get more flavor. But when you're talking about loose tea, you're not just looking for bitterness out of a tea bag. You're getting flavor from the tea leaves and from whether it be the blend or the style. And so 5 minutes is really a good point. And then 3 minutes for green tea.
Even 2.
Or even, oh yeah, I mean, you can, there's a whole range that you can play with time, temperature, and amount. But really the threshold between a good cup and a bad cup is too bitter. When it comes to fruits, herbals, and all those tisanes that we've been talking about, they don't get bitter because they don't have caffeine, and it's the tannins in the caffeine that make it bitter for us. So rooibos, hibiscus, and all those you can kind of just steep and steep. There is a threshold to that too, where it just doesn't give you any more.
True.
And so we cut it off here at the Tea Lounge at 7 minutes, and I think that's the standard procedure for that. But if you are getting herbs from your garden. So let me back right up. So this cup in front of me is 16 ounces. So with regular tea, we'd use 2 teaspoons. But in these tisanes, we're doubling that amount. So we're going to use 4 teaspoons. We're going to and infuse it with boiling water for 7 minutes. So.
Well, the way that I usually recommend to short and stout customer is that we take a common practice approach as many other things. If you make it and you love it, you make it right. You can go with a whole textbook of how to brew a proper cup of tea. You have to put in this much, you have to weigh it, you have to boil it. In a regular daily lifestyle, who would have time to do that? Unless you are doing tea ceremony, like you would practice. I admire those practice. I respect those practice, but I'm talking about in everyday life, like someone like me who's always busy, you're not going to measure every tea. So the rule of thumb that I usually use it for myself, and I tell customer at short and stout is if you make a cup of tea, you brew however you brew, how long it is, how much you put in, and you enjoy the cup so much, you make it right. Because it's come down to personal preference. There can be a rule books of everything of how you do. But if you do it, and then maybe this green tea is too bitter, maybe this black tea, is too weak, maybe go back to the guideline of, how we would say, let's start with 1 teaspoon per cup. And for us, like our tea, we have like for black and green, we recommend 1 teaspoon per 8-ounce cup. And for black tea for 5 minutes, for green tea, let's just keep it between 2 to 3 minutes. I like to give the range of time, and even the range of teaspoon, because that can be where you can adjust based on personal preference. One thing that I usually point out though is that the water that you use for the green tea and white tea is when, you might want to use the lower temperature a little bit, because the hot water going is just gonna go and then draw out all that tannin from the leaves, where if you use the lower temperature water, it kind of massage the leaves. You get more like, all the aroma, the body of the tea come out together. It's more gentle to the leaves. So if you brew a cup of tea and it's super strong or super light, that's where you can go back to the guideline. But eventually, rule of thumb, if you make it the way that you've been doing it and you enjoy the cup, hey, that's good to go.
Right, exactly right. And with tisanes, you have the 2 teaspoons per 8 ounces, boiling water, 7 minutes or so, and that's a good guideline to get you to because if you brew for 2 minutes, if that's the way you like it, fine. But if you want it more flavorful, that's where our
But if it's rooibos or herbal, you steep it for 2 minutes and you like it, then it's fine.
That's fine. Now, there's a little bit of difference that what would have to happen if you're using fresh herbs, because you can grow a lot of these things no matter what climate. And here, even in the Northeast, mint grows like a weed. Chamomile, people have grown, but they're so tiny little daisies, it's just not worth growing on your own. But there's a lot of herbs that you can grow and infuse in hot water and drink. So when using fresh herbs, what the rule of thumb is to double the amount of ingredients and muddle it a little bit. So if you were to have dried mint, we'd use 2 teaspoons per 8 ounces. But for fresh mint, bump it up to 4 teaspoons. Give it a good muddle, and then add in your hot water, and then go ahead and take that out after 7 minutes or even longer. Because again, no rules, and it doesn't get bitter. So that's where brewing baskets really do a good job, because it allows you to throw in a lot of tea and tisanes into it, and then pull it out of the tea of the new infusion instead of the tea balls, because you really can't get 4 teaspoons of tea in a tea ball, and that's just for 8 ounces.
And it does expand when you work with loose tea. Definitely, it's not like tea bag, but everything got like chopped up or mixed in, so the tea do expand. So a little piece of take yin or jasmine pearl that looks so tiny, don't let that fool you, because like if the brewing basket, it might look as big as this cup, and people are like, is that for a big pot? I'm like, no, actually, you want a bigger area for the tea to open up and expand and interact with the water. We have another equipment brewing of like the gravity maker, where you see the circulation of like the leaves, the ingredients going up and down with that motion of the hot water going in. So the bigger room for the tea to expand, the better when it comes to loose tea.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Anything else on the tisane topic that we needed to cover?
I think we cover a lot. I think that's pretty much what we covered this time. We didn't even go deep into other topics because we were like, let's just drink a cup of tea and let's see where tea take us, in the conversation. But it seemed like we wrapped it up pretty, full wrap for
for an intro 101.
Yeah.
So we're going to be looking forward to our next episode. And, as you probably have noticed from our first episode to our second episode, we got a tablecloth. And there's a lot of history behind this tablecloth that we don't have to get into today. But we're expanding, or we are constantly improving. And I'm a big fan of Gong Fu Cha, which is making tea with great skill. And the real element that I have with that is just mindfulness in what we're doing and improving a little bit every time. So thanks for sticking with us.